Should you let your kids win?
Heck no.
No?
Nah. It's a little more complex than that, but no. Gosh, no. We're competitive. We want to win, right? What breath is on? This is a great question,
win. I hate to win, Nate.
That's the biggest load of pie
So
I've
what?
ever.
So what brought this on?
Yeah. Where did this question? Because this is a great question.
I was meeting with a new friend, and basketball came up, and a young teenage boy came up. Preparation for an upcoming season, trying to make a high school team came up, and so we just went for a while. And he was talking about how him and his wife get in friendly discussions about
who wins those. That's another episode.
I don't know him well enough to know, but next time I see him, I'll ask him who wins those discussions. Notice I didn't call them arguments. I called them discussions. Yeah,
I think that's rewarded.
The subject came up about letting your kids win because they don't see eye to eye on that. He believes that you beat them and beat them and beat them until they can finally beat you.
Well, that's a very valid point. What's the other side of that?
The other side of
that discussion. Letting them win, is there upside to that?
Well, I have to tell you, I've only believed in that when they're really little.
Yeah.
So I know
you have to keep that in mind.
We're targeting parents of teens, but I think we have to bring in the youngers here too.
Right.
Like with my grandson, my grandson is 6. I let him score a couple goals on me yesterday in the backyard.
Yep. Was that hard to let him do that?
Not really. It was really cool for him, but I would say as he got older and more skilled and understood more about the competitive nature, I think I would try to tighten things up.
Yeah.
I mean, I am a grandpa, so this isn't father-son.
At what age do you say, okay, you're not beating me anymore? No more goals?
Hey, you're the one with the adolescent psychology degree. Ask yourself that question, because
fair enough.
I mean, turn to page 374 of
the nerdy textbook.
Some thick book. What do you think?
It's super kid specific. A lot of it depends on their aspirations as well. Like what does the kid want to get out of it? Because if they don't ever want to go anywhere with it, it doesn't matter if you win, they win. You're just having fun together. And I think that factors into the decision. I think how serious is your kid about it?
Yeah, I think that factors heavily into it. If they're much more serious, much more competitive, maybe you can dial things up. But if this is just purely recreational, and you're chasing butterflies in between trying to score goals,
right?
Then why not?
But if they start to take it seriously, I think that's a really good measure, is how serious does your kid want to take things? Because they don't. I mean, I remember when I was growing up trying to beat my dad in things, like, and I know we've talked about that same idea. It's like you don't want your dad to gift you a win. You don't want the people you play. There's no joy in that. It's like, you let me win.
And I honestly don't remember the early years with my dad to know if he let me win. I just know that during the competitive years, no, you had to earn it.
I sense a story there. I sense there's a little more to that.
There is a story there. Do you have any stories?
Well, for me, the most relevant example is with my son, and his main sport was golf. And golf's a little bit different because it's an individual sport, and competing against each other is more like I'm going to go play my best, he's going to go play his best, but there's not like direct head to head kind of thing. Like the score ends up being head to head. But I know, like for me, he was pretty good when he was young, and I could still beat him. But as he was getting better and better as he was getting better and better at it, it's like I'm not missing any putts on purpose. I'm not throwing any shots, because if you're going to beat me, you're going to beat me, and it's going to be an accomplishment. And he knew that, and he beat me when he was 11. I mean, I'm not the greatest in the world, but he got to the point where he was able to beat me at a pretty young age, and that was straight up. And I think that helped him confidence wise, knowing that, yeah, I can go square off with my dad and shoot better than him.
Do you remember that moment
When he
when he
beat
beat
me?
you?
Yes. And I've come close once since we did that, and like and I was playing the round of my life. Like I was lighting it up. I was even par through 17 holes, and I look at the score and I'm thinking like, yes, I got a chance here. And I look at his scorecard and he was 4 under. And that's the closest I've come since then. And he holds that over my head though. Like he'll send me on a fairly regular basis a picture of that scorecard where I shot the best round of my life, and I still was 4 shots back from him. And
He
so
is a good player.
I'm glad I never let him win when it came to golf. But when he was younger, like we'd do things where we'd go out and I'd give him like mini goals, like, hit the ball over this water hazard. If you can, carry this ball 40 yards over, we'll stop at McDonald's on the way home. And the first time he did that, he celebrated like
McDonald's.
he won the Masters, and it was kind of cool. Well, that was back when I used to think, fast food wasn't the worst thing in the world. And now we know otherwise.
He is a good player.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
I mean, he did play in college. Yes?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He hasn't played for a while. It's been a few years since he's played competitively, and we got together over the summer, and I still, even when he's not playing great, I'm lucky if I can stay within 6, maybe 8 shots. He's got to give me strokes for me to have a chance.
He beat you before he even got to his teenage years.
Yes, he did. So, like for me, I didn't have much of a chance to let him win. Now it's almost the other way around. He has to let me win, and that's not going to happen. But golf's a little bit different. Some of the more physical competitive sports can change the dynamics on that. But with the younger kids, I think keeping their safety in mind's got to be the first thing on your mind when you're dealing with the younger kids. But it does, as they age, as they show a little more aptitude, physicality, competitiveness, then you can start to factor that in. And like the mom side of it's a pretty valid point. Letting the kids win, like I see some validity to that, because I think that it could help their confidence. But if they know that you're letting them win, I don't know if that's the best route. It depends on, here's another thing to look at. How upset does the kid get when they lose to you? Because it's a good chance to teach them how to be a gracious loser. You could also accomplish that by letting them win and modeling what it's like to be a gracious loser when you lose. But if the kid feels like you let them win, it almost diffuses some of the power from the lessons.
And I think if you're a gracious winner, you're also teaching the flip side lesson of being a gracious loser as well.
And man, you watch sports nowadays. We need to learn how to be gracious winners. There's a lot of very in-your-face, taunting type winning going on, and I think that's not what real competition's about.
Yeah, and I think social media has just fueled the fire. It is just, I mean, you have grown men and women that are going at each other. Not a good thing. I don't know if my mom was looking. Go ahead. You finish your thought.
I was just going to say there's a lot to be said for modeling gracious winning and gracious losing. letting them see, because that's one of our number one jobs as a parent, is to help our kids develop emotional regulation skills. And winning and losing are both very emotional events. And if we can show them how to win well and how to lose well, that's a powerful thing that we can do for our kids.
Well, my dad did that for me. I don't know if my mom was looking out the kitchen window the one time I almost beat him. This had to have been middle school. We're talking one-on-one basketball on the concrete. I grew up, Nate. I didn't grow up in air-conditioned, heated gyms like you did, always, playing every time. I shoveled the driveway. I played in freezing temperatures, had a particle board backboard that,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was in a garage.
That's actually kind of cool.
And garage doors with a brick separating the two doors in the middle.
Kind of like the laminated countertops. That was your backboard.
Sometimes run into, but no, I wish it was laminated. I mean, that would have been harder. This was like a dud. It was like dead. So then when you went and played on
one
glass,
where it hits the backboard and like it doesn't bounce off it at all. It like absorbs all the energy and just drops straight down.
I mean, you could fire it. You could fire it really hard off the backboard and make it every time. But I was playing my dad, and I had gotten to the point where I had really improved. And by the way, he was a great modeler of gracious winning, because I could tell he was not going to let me win. He never ever told me, but he just kept beating me and beating me. Oh, he would do this one thing. I thought it was kind of funny, and I later did it with my two sons. But when he got to the point where he was one bucket away, he would on purpose shoot his final shot, or shots if he happened to miss. He would shoot his final shot with ridiculously exaggerated arch on the shot. So it was kind of like a circus thing. And then when he would make it, he would just look at me and shake my hand, tell me good game. And he was always encouraging too. Like when I was doing something well, he would tell me. After the game, he would tell me things to work on or whatever. And I knew that, okay, I am going to have to earn this victory against him. And I remember one time he was one bucket away. And I actually am going, or no, we were either tied or I was one bucket away. And I was going to make the winning shot for the first victory over my dad. And I got just a little bit ahead of him, had a shoulder ahead of him, and going in for a layup. And the next thing you know, it was like a Beal Lane Beer, Detroit Pistons from the 90s hard foul.
Rick Mahorn.
Yeah, Rick Mahorn, Bill Lane Beer, those guys. The what do they call those guys?
The Bad Boys.
The Bad Boys.
The Bad Boy Pistons.
The Bad Boys. And I got shoved clear off the court.
No.
And it was a little bit alarming. It was like, that was a hard foul. Wait, you're my dad? Anyway,
no
helps me up. I would love to have old video because my memory is somewhat spotty. This is decades ago. But I remember I got back up. I was a little rattled, and he D'd me up, and I didn't get a good look, and he ended up winning that game. And then it was, I don't know how much longer. I believe it was 8th grade. I think 8th grade. Because let's face it, he was at the hill or nearing the hill or maybe even a little over the hill by that point. And the young legs and a good shooting touch finally got him.
Yep. Father Time's undefeated.
But, Nate Crandall, I am glad that he did not let me win.
Yeah.
With all apologies to all the mothers out there and fathers, because I know a few feisty moms that would say you're never going to let him win, and it might be the spouse, it might be the dad that's saying, "Oh, come on, let him win a game here or there." Yeah. What about chess? Never let him win.
Chess. Again, depends on their aspirations, depends on how well they know the game. Is it something that's, worth having the fights about? If they're trying to be a grandmaster or something like that, don't let them win. Because when you beat him for the first time, how did you feel?
Oh, it was incredible. I felt it, and I felt like, well, I knew I really earned it.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't some weird thing. I had to just keep getting better. And while I was losing to him, of course, that just made me practice harder. And it made me think, made me get creative. Okay, I can't even get this certain shot I can't even get off. Or I can't get by him yet. I'm not faster than him. So what do I need to do? Defensively, is there anything I can do? What can I do to improve my chances? So I guess I was a budding coach even back then. I mean, it was age 14 that I
maybe
knew
the
I
coaching
really
came from
wanted to
him
coach.
treating the situation like that. Him approaching it that way forced you to adjust and adapt, to start to think like a coach. So I will say this to your father's credit. I think what really makes that work is the fact that he was encouraging through the process. It wasn't about, man, I'm just, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to show you what's up. He was very encouraging to you through the process. He made you earn it, but he wasn't like, raining blood and thunder on you as it went down. And I think that's the key.
And I never asked him, and he's not still here, so I can't ask him right now, but I have a feeling that was a very, very proud moment for him when I did finally beat him. I think he congratulated me. He gave me the handshake, told me good job, all those things.
That's awesome.
But I think deep down inside, he was really excited. Because let's face it, if you can't beat your dad one-on-one, if you're into basketball, if you can't beat your dad one-on-one until you're in your mid-30s, then you probably aren't going to have a very promising career. So beating him at, I don't know what it was, 12, 13, I think he was excited. He's like, okay, he loves this and he works hard. He's going to.
Yeah. I tend to not to like to, pick sides and stuff on this, but I think if it's handled correctly, if we approach our kids almost intentionally, where it's like, okay, this is my intentional approach to this. And it sounds like your dad had at least some kind of recognition of that purpose. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to help make my son tough, but at the same time, I'm going to encourage him and equip him and empower him to continue to grow himself until he can beat me. But when he beats me, it's going to be an honest win.
Okay, so let's finish up, Nate. I'm going to give you 2 questions. First question is, for a single parent, what is a question that they can ask themselves concerning this subject that will help them to dial in on which side they think is right, letting them win or not letting them win?
What are my child's goals with this sport?
Perfect. Now, let's say you have 2 parents that are opposed on the idea. What's a question that they could ask that would help them to come together on this?
What does our son or daughter need from me to help them be the best that they want to be? And I think that's a great couples question, because you might have some differing opinions on it, which should lead to a good discussion about, okay, what really is going to be the best for them. And when you counsel together as a couple, I think you get a better, more holistic view of what's going to be the best. And it could be a combination. Like it could be a combination of sometimes you let them win, sometimes you beat their pants off, but you encourage them in the process. I like that.
Awesome. Go Parents. See you, Nate.
Let's do it. See ya.
On behalf of Steve Galley, I'm Nate Crandall, and we thank you, our loyal listeners, for tuning in to this episode. If you love what you're learning from the Stop Parenting and Start Coaching podcast, we would appreciate it very much if you would leave us a 5-star review and some glowing comments. We also encourage you to share this episode with your friends and family who are parents of athletes and performers. And if you want to explore further and see what Steve and I are creating to help thousands of parents, athletes, and performers, please visit our company's website at createtransformbecome.com. That's createtransformbecome, all one word, .com. There you'll find a growing number of resources to help you elevate your performance. Thank you again for your support, and we encourage you to create a magical relationship with your athlete and performer.